Chosen ones, you belong to a very rare species. Notice that it's 1 in a million. You are humans, but differentiated. In a world where everything is made to fit into molds, there is a silent minority that never fit in, who, even without intending to attract attention, has always stood out. People with a different way of thinking, feeling, and seeing life. People who seem to live outside the script. If that sounds familiar, perhaps it's because you are one of the chosen. And no, this isn't about being better than anyone. It's about carrying something that almost no one understands. While many live repeating patterns you question, where the majority complacently rests, you feel a restlessness that does not go away. You've already noticed that you don't think like others, that you see things no one comments on, that you feel what no one else seems to feel. This doesn't make you strange, it makes you rare. Rarity confuses, rarity irritates, and that's why since forever, the world has tried to fit you into places that were never made for you. They tried to label, control, silence. But you remain there, steadfast, even if in silence. And that is what sets you apart from the rest. You're not just out of the ordinary, you are out of the ordinary. This video isn't about changing you, it's about reminding you. You belong to a very rare species, and even when no one understands what you carry, that does not diminish your value. On the contrary, it confirms it. My name is George. Don't leave without subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. Here, we don't talk to crowds. We talk to the different. To the 1 in a million. To the chosen ones. Let's go together. The rarity as a sign of purpose. From early on, some people realize they don't fit the common standards. They see the world with greater depth, feel the environment more intensely, and carry questions that most wouldn't even dare to ask. This discomfort isn't by chance. It's a sign. A reminder that they were not made to go with the flow, but to create new paths. Being rare is not a condition you choose. It's something you carry in your essence. You may have tried to adapt, hide what you feel, imitate others' behavior. But there was always something inside you that resisted. This something isn't stubbornness. It's your nature trying to remember who you truly are, behind the masks and molds. The world likes predictable things. The system rewards those who repeat, who follow rules, who fit in. Rare people bother because they cannot be labeled. They do not obey ready-made formulas and do not follow generic scripts. And it's precisely for this reason that they are so necessary. Where everything is the same, the different becomes direction. The out of the ordinary becomes a compass. You may have been called exaggerated, dramatic, or complicated. You may have been ridiculed for thinking too much or feeling too much. But that is not weakness. It's perception. It's the ability to see beyond the surface. The chosen were not made to live on the shallow layer of things. They dive deep, even when it's harder, even when it hurts. This depth has put you in shock with many things. Shallow relationships, artificial environments, empty conversations. What is bearable for the majority is suffocating for you. It's not arrogance, it's sensitivity, it's awareness. While the world is content with appearances, you seek meaning. And this quest, even when solitary, is part of your calling. You have a mission that has not yet been fully revealed, but is already in motion. Each conflict, each disconnection, each existential crisis has been part of the preparation. It doesn't seem fair, but it makes sense. Those who carry weight need structure. Those who carry purpose need maturity. Your story has shaped you to hold things that many wouldn't endure. Behind the feeling of not belonging, there is a key. You were not made to fit. You were made to overflow. Your presence bothers what is false. Your gaze reveals what is hidden. Your silence provokes more than many speeches. The chosen do not stand out to seek attention, but because they carry a truth that cannot be ignored. Even without understanding everything, you feel that there is something greater guiding your steps. This prevents you from stopping even when tired. It's as if an invisible force is pulling you toward the right direction, and that direction is often contrary to the crowd. This requires courage. Because walking alone isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's the consequence of being true. Many people will try to reduce you. They will call you complicated, dreamy, rebellious. But you were not born to fit into labels. What you carry cannot be defined with ordinary words. Your essence is rare, and everything that is rare scares, annoys, but also transforms. You are not the problem. You are the answer that has not yet been understood. So if you feel that the world has never understood you completely, don't blame yourself. You were molded for something greater. You are a living sign that there are still people who have not yielded to the automatic. Your rarity is not a mistake. It is your pulsating purpose, and everything that pulses with truth, sooner or later, finds its place. The indomitable spirit that breaks systems. Some people are born with a kind of restlessness that cannot be explained. They observe the world and, even without knowing why, sense that something is wrong with the way everything works. From early on, they learn that certain behaviors are expected. But instead of following, they question. Instead of obeying, they analyze. The social, family, and even religious system tries to mold everyone in the same way. Since childhood, we're taught to behave, to follow invisible rules, not to bother. But you've never been able to fit into that without feeling like you were betraying something inside yourself. This isn't rebellion. It's lucid insight. It's your spirit refusing the artificial. Being outwardly obedient and inwardly suffocated never worked for you. Where many stayed silent to avoid conflict, you chose to tell the truth. Where others accepted the limit as fate, you saw the barrier as an invitation to go beyond. And that kept you away from most, but brought you closer to your essence. This spirit that drives you to break structures didn't come from a revolt. It was planted there because there are codes in this world that need to be broken. Rules that were never fair. Truths that were never complete. And you are not here to adapt to them. You are here to expose them and rebuild what makes sense. The problem is that the system doesn't know what to do with people like you. They don't submit. They don't bow. They don't follow without thinking. That threatens control. That's why they try to discredit you. They call it exaggeration. They say you complicate everything. But the truth is that your gaze disrupts the comfort of lies. You don't bother because you err. You bother because you see. You are the flaw in the code that shows the program is out of date. And no matter how much they try to push you into normality, you always find a loophole, always question, always challenge. It's as if your spirit were designed not to be domesticated. Many have tried to label this way of yours. They've said you need to be more flexible, less intense, more controlled. But what they don't understand is that if you cut this fire, you cut the purpose along with it. Your discomfort is precisely what keeps you awake. Your irritation is what points to where no one else is looking. You weren't born to walk in line. You weren't born to salute fear disguised as tradition. Your indomitable spirit isn't a manufacturing defect. It's the exact tool to break cycles that imprison. Every time you refuse to follow what you don't believe, you weaken an entire system that survives on blind obedience. Whoever tries to live without thinking survives. Whoever lives with awareness transforms. And this transformation begins with you. Even when the world tries to impose rules, you remain the exception. And there is nothing more powerful than someone who walks with the awareness that they don't need the system's permission to follow their mission. You have broken code since you arrived. Even when you didn't realize it, your presence was already disrupting structures. The world needs that. It needs people who don't accept what has always been just because it has always been that way. And if you feel like you live fighting against an invisible system, it isn't madness. It's a mission. Your spirit is the key that breaks the pattern. The presence that redefines environments. There are people who enter a room and go unnoticed. Others, without saying a word, change the climate. You belong to the second group. Your presence carries a kind of weight that isn't physical, but is felt. It isn't arrogance, it's energy. And this, even if you don't notice, affects everything around you. From a very young age, you may have noticed this. People stood out differently near you. Some looked at you with curiosity, others with resistance. Many couldn't explain why, but something in them changed simply because you were there. This type of reaction isn't common. It's the result of the atmosphere you carry. Your atmosphere isn't made only of pretty words or confident posture. It is shaped by the pain you have already overcome, by the truths you chose to uphold, by the wounds that turned into strength. All of this comes together and accompanies you wherever you go. That is what makes you different. While many try to attract attention through effort, you attract attention without trying. And this isn't something you can turn off. Your presence speaks before your mouth. Your gaze reveals more than many speeches. You don't need to assert yourself. You exist. And that in itself provokes. Some people will feel uncomfortable near you even without apparent reason. This happens because your presence activates in them what is hidden. If there is truth, it will be strengthened. If there is lies, it will be exposed. You don't force this, but what you carry compels others to look at themselves in the mirror. Therefore, environments that are not aligned with your essence quickly become heavy. You feel, you perceive, and if you insist on staying, you end up being drained. This isn't hypersensitivity, it's spiritual coherence. Your inner self no longer negotiates with places where there is pretense. Your presence is not neutral. Where you enter, the environment either changes, or you cannot stay. This has already made you leave places that seemed promising but suffocated your truth. It has driven you away from people who, though smiling, could not bear your depth. And all of this was necessary. Who you are disturbs those who live by appearances, but it attracts those who seek truth. You function as a filter. It separates the superficial from the essential. Where you are, masks fall. And as much as that irritates some, it frees others. Being like this is challenging. Sometimes you feel alone. But it is precisely this invisible force that ensures you will never be forgotten. Even when silent, you speak. Even when distant, you remain. Your presence is a mark. And when you understand this, you begin to choose more carefully where you step, who you walk with, and what you carry. Because your atmosphere is rare, and anything that is rare must be preserved. The mission to break invisible inheritances. Not all the battles you face began with you. Many pains, fears, and limitations that have accompanied you throughout life were not created by your choices. They were inherited, as if they came in the blood, in the family's gaze, in the silences that no one dares to break. You feel that something needs to change, but you don't know exactly what. This feeling isn't just yours. It's the reflection of cycles that repeat for generations. Families with patterns of scarcity, fear, guilt, or abandonment. Situations that repeat as if they're bound to an invisible script. And as much as no one talks about it openly, everyone feels it. It's just that you feel it more. You could not ignore it. You began to notice these repetitions, the same kind of pain passing from father to son, from mother to daughter. the same kind of failure disguised as destiny. When you look back, you understand it's no coincidence. And when you look inside, you realize that perhaps you were chosen precisely to break with it. Many times you felt overwhelmed, as if you carried a burden you don't quite understand, as if your life were more intense, more difficult, more confusing. It's because what weighs on you isn't only yours. It's the accumulation of generations that merely survived. And now, with you, the time has come to change. You weren't chosen by accident. You are the one who sees, who feels what others have learned to ignore, who questions what everyone has accepted as normal. And that different gaze is what makes you dangerous to the standard. You don't repeat, you interrupt. Breaking invisible inheritances requires courage, because it requires being different from those who came before. It requires making unpopular choices, setting boundaries where there were none, breaking silent alliances that were passed off as tradition. And sometimes, that means being misinterpreted by those still living bound to the past. You didn't come to repeat the pain. You came to break it. This doesn't make you better than anyone, but it makes you responsible. What you heal in yourself also heals in the bloodline. Each cycle you close opens possibilities for those who will come after, even if they never know what you faced to change history. Navigating with unknown maps. Many people live their lives based on what they've seen work for others. They follow familiar paths, repeat formulas, and expect the same results. But with you, it's never been like that. Advice didn't seem to fit. Ready-made solutions didn't work. It was as if you were following a map that no one else could see. This caused you confusion. While everyone else followed clear routes, you found yourself opening trails in terrain that seemed to not exist. Always hearing phrases like, "This won't work," "No one has ever done this," or "Why don't you do it like the others?" But something inside you always knew that your path wouldn't be ordinary. You were designed to walk where others haven't stepped yet. This isn't easy. It often feels solitary, insecure, and even absurd. But that's precisely what makes you necessary. You are building routes that someday others will use as reference. You're not a repeater. You are a cartographer. While many wait for external signs and confirmations, you learn to trust what you feel inside. Your sense of direction doesn't come from logic. It comes from intuition, from discernment, from something that calls you without needing to explain. It's as if your soul knows where to go, even if your eyes see nothing ahead. This way of walking confuses those who are stuck in the known. People look at you as if you're lost, when in fact you're just not where they can comprehend. Your steps don't make sense to those who only recognize the ground they've already walked on. But you weren't made to repeat paths. You were made to open roads. The challenge is to continue, even when no one understands. To keep faith, even without guarantees. To proceed, even when results haven't appeared yet. And this is where many give up. But the chosen ones keep going. Not because they're stubborn, but because they recognize the calling that beats stronger than others' opinions. There were moments when you tried to follow the path of others, tried to fit in, copy, imitate. But you soon realize that when you abandon your route, everything starts to unravel. Your peace disappears, your energy weakens, because your mission has no shortcut. It only has direction, and it's unique, even if it's solitary. The freedom that exposes control. Free people disturb, not because of what they say, but because of the way they live. They do not follow the crowd's flow. They do not need permission to exist, and they do not make approval a necessity. When someone walks with true freedom, the systems that control others begin to tremble, and you represent exactly that kind of threat. From early on, They tried to mold you. They taught you how to behave, what to stay silent about, what to expect. But something inside you always resisted. Not out of rebellion, but because you felt that that model didn't serve. You perceived the control hidden in sweet words, the camouflage manipulation in traditions, and you chose not to accept it anymore. Your freedom isn't loud, but it's firm. It doesn't shout, but it imposes presence. It doesn't need to justify every step, because it comes from an internal certainty that doesn't depend on what others think. It's this stance that makes structures feel confused. Because you live as if you owed nothing to anyone. And indeed you don't. Those who control others need them to be afraid. Fear of losing, fear of making mistakes, fear of being rejected. But when fear stops holding you, the game changes. You become immune to certain emotional blackmail. What they used to manipulate you with no longer works, because your root is no longer in the need for acceptance. It's not that you don't value people. You simply don't bow to expectations. You can listen to advice, but you don't live under command. You can honor, but you don't cling. You can love without imprisoning yourself. That lightness is frightening, because many still believe they need to be guided to mean something. When someone watches you live like this, they begin to question their own shackles. You don't need to point anything out. Your life is already a mirror. And some hate the reflection. Not because you do something against them, but because you live what they have not yet dared to live. Your freedom reveals their imprisonment. Therefore, some people will try to diminish you. Say that you are proud, individualist, or difficult. But in truth, it is the system speaking through them. The system hates those who don't need it. And when you live in peace without following the script, it tries to discredit you. It tries to make it look like you are lost, when in fact you are simply free. Freedom has a price. Not everyone will like the person you are becoming. Not everyone will understand your choices. But you are not here to explain yourself. You are here to be true. And being true requires breaking with what was made to keep you small. You were not born to live controlled. You were created with an identity that cannot be manipulated. And when you live from it, everything changes. Fear loses strength. Others' opinions lose weight. External pressure no longer defines your paths. This is not arrogance. It is clarity. And who has clarity doesn't need approval to continue. The incarnate prophecy, you are the fulfillment. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for something or someone to rescue them. They believe the right time is always in the future. That change depends on others, that the miracle is far away. But the chosen ones live in a different reality. They are not waiting for something external. They are the very movement that changes everything. You may not notice this clearly every day. It may be that, in the rush of life, you forget how much you have already overcome, how much you have endured, how much you have surpassed. But the truth is simple. The fact that you are still standing, with awareness and courage, is evidence that there is something in you that the world has not been able to break. Everything in you carries intention. Your story, your way of thinking, your sensitivity, even moments of crisis. None of this was by accident. Each detail is part of a larger plan, even when it seems chaotic. And that is what the chosen ones need to understand. You are a living part of something that began before you were born and will continue after you are gone. You did not come to follow a pattern. You came to break a cycle, to build something new where there was only repetition, to free future generations from prisons they did not even know existed. And all of this begins at the moment you accept your identity, even without understanding everything immediately. Being a chosen one does not mean living without pain. It means continuing in spite of it. It means not giving up your truth, even when everything around you tries to mold you. It means looking fear in the eyes and saying, I was made for more, not because you think you're better, but because you were not made to be less. The world has no category for people like you. That's why it tries to reduce you, domesticate you, label you. But your soul knows it was born for something that cannot be explained, only lived. And that's why you keep going, even in silence, even in doubt, even with fear. Because deep down, something in you already knows the end of the story. And the end is this: you win. Not in the way the world defines victory, with fame or applause, but with a fulfilled purpose, a legacy left, and transformation begun. Your victory is internal, deep, quiet, but powerful. It touches lives, it breaks structures, it changes destinies, and it begins with your decision to keep being who you are, even if no one understands. Leave a comment saying what you feel you were called to break or to build. We are forming a generation of raros, of nonconformists, of chosen ones. And this journey is only just beginning.